We know in chapter 1 the darkness is coming. But chapter 2 says that if the meek ones seek Yahweh, he will hide them in that dark and terrible day that is coming. Zechariah chapter 9 verse 14. Zechariah chapter 9 verse 14. And Yahweh shall appear for them, and his arrow go forth like lightning. And the Master Yahweh sound the ram's horn, and he shall go with the whirlwinds from the south. Yahweh of hosts shall shield them, and they shall devour and trample on sling stones. And they shall drink roar is with wine, and they shall be filled with basins, with corners of the altar. And Yahweh their Elohim shall save them in that day, as the flock of his people for the stones of a diadem, sparkling over his land. So the time of Yahweh is not just a time where he destroys the nations, it's a time where he shepherds his people, where he brings back his people, and he begins to rule over them. Yeshayahu, Isaiah 27, verse 12. And in that day it shall be that Yahweh threshes, and the channel of the river of the Wadi of Mitzrayim, and you shall be gathered one by one, O children of Israel. And in that day it shall be that a great horn, a great shofar is blown, and those who are perishing in the land of Asher, which is Syria of today, and the outcasts who are in the land of Mitzrayim, which is Egypt of today, shall come and shall worship Yahweh on the Kodesh mountain in Yerushalayim. So not only do we know that the day of Yahweh is coming, but the great shofar sound that is going to come according to the prophet Yeshayahu, who is Isaiah, it will gather the outcast of Israel. It's going to gather the children of Yisrael. They will be gathered one by one, says Yahuwah. Now further, if we go to Daniel chapter 12, verse 1, it says, now at that time, Mikael shall stand up, the great head who is standing over the sons of your people. And there shall be a time of tribulation or distress, such as never was, since there was a nation until that time. And at that time your people, this is talking about the children of Israel, shall be delivered, each and every one who is found written in the book. And many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall wake up, some to everlasting life and some to reproaches everlasting. So the prophets let us know that this time of the gathering is also a time of the resurrection. Yeshayahu, Isaiah 26, verse 19. Let your dead live together with my dead body. Let them arise. Awake and sing, you who dwell in the dust. For your dew is a dew of light. And let the earth give birth to the departed spirits. Go, my people, enter your rooms and shut your doors behind you. Hide yourself, as it were, for a little while until the displeasure is past. For look, Yahweh is coming out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their crookedness. And the earth shall disclose their blood and no longer cover her slain. So we know this time is coming, that Yahweh will raise those who are in the graves, and that Yom Teruah heralds in this time, the time of Yahweh, the day of Yahweh, where all of these things shall happen. Now, one thing I want to note before we go into the fulfillment of the words of the prophets, and we look into these words even deeper, is to talk about what is done on Yom Teruah, on the Day of Trumpets, by the Orthodox Yahudim. Because what we discussed previously is that the Ashkenazim, they blow 100 sounds on the shofar. The Sephardim, they do 101 sounds. These are comprised of 3 sounds, the 4th sound being repeated again for a loud, great sound, the great sound of the trumpet, like we see in Isaiah. This refers to the great sound of the trumpet at the end of Yom Teruah. But what is read during this time of the sounding of trumpets by the Orthodox Yahudim is very interesting. It comes from their own prayer book on Rosh Hashanah. And it says, may it be your will that the Tekiah Shavarim Teruah Tekiah blast that we sound be embroidered into the heavenly curtain by the appointed angel or messenger, just as you accept prayers from Eliyahu, who is Elijah, who is remembered for Tov or good. And then it puts Yeshua, which is the shortened form of Yahushua, the Kohen HaGadol, minister of the inner chamber. And here it calls him Sha'ar HaPanaim, which we know means the messenger of the face, the prince of the face of Yahuwah, which is the one who declared the revelation to Moshe and to the prophets. He was the messenger. He was the one who appeared in the likeness and form of Yahuwah, who appeared to the elders, all these things. And this is what is written concerning him. And here it calls him by the name of Yahushua in the prayers. And it says, and the ministering Malach, that you be filled with mercy upon us. Baruch are you, master of mercies. Now the reason this is important is because, as we know, Orthodox Yahudim do not accept Yahushua today. But what we see is that somewhere down the line, someone and a group of them must have in times past for it to have found its way in the prayer book, because today the rabbis have no answer as to why Yahushua's name appears in this prayer that they do each and every Yom Teruah. Each and every Yom Teruah he is acknowledged as being the prince of the presence of the face of Yahuwah himself, each and every time. So that is important to note. Now let us go to the Brit Hadashah, the renewed covenant, and read what it says concerning the festivals. In Colossians chapter 2, verse 16, it says, let no one therefore judge you in eating or in drinking or in respect of a festival or a new moon or Sabbaths, which are a shadow of which is to come, but the body of the Messiah. So you don't allow anyone to judge you in the fact that you observe the Sabbath, that you keep the new moons, and that you drink the wine and you partake in these things that Yahuwah has ordained for us to do during the new moons and the Sabbaths and the feast days. Don't let anyone judge you except for the body of the Messiah. But further, he says, these things are shadows of things to come. We are rehearsing for something that is yet to unfold. We are rehearsing for a future event. So therefore, let us go to Jeremiah 23, verse 7, and read about this future event. Therefore, see, the days are coming, declares Yahuwah, when they shall say no more, as Yahuwah lives, who brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Mizraim, but as Yahuwah lives, that brought up the seed of the house of Israel out of the land of the north, and from all the lands where I have delivered them, and they shall dwell on their own soil. So we know that Yahuwah will gather them, that they've been sent out into the north, they've been sent to the four corners of the earth, and he's going to gather them. This is the same event that takes place in Isaiah Yeshayahu chapter 27 that we read about, the great sound of the trumpet. It will be that he gathers the outcasts of Israel, the ones who are in Syria and in Mitzrayim, which is Egypt. They will be gathered at the great sound of the shofar, and that all the other people, all of Yahuwah's people who are spread out throughout the lands, they will be gathered at the sound of the shofar. So when the scriptures tell us it is a Mikra Kodesh, a set-apart gathering and rehearsal, and Shaul, who is called Paul, tells us that it is in fact a shadow picture of something great that is to come, we know what it is. It's obvious in the scriptures that it is a picture of all these things. But further, if we go to the book of Revelation, chapter 8, verse 6, it says, and the seven messengers who held the seven trumpets prepared themselves to sound. In chapter 10, verse 5 of Revelation, it says, and the messenger whom I saw standing on the sea and on the land lifted up his right hand to the Shamayim and swore by him who lives forever and ever, who created the heavens and what is in it, and the earth and what is in it, and the sea and what is in it. And there shall be no further delay. But in the days of the sounding of the seventh messenger, when he is about to sound, the secret of Elohim shall be ended, as he declared to his servants, the prophets. So now we have an outline of the future events for certainty. We know that it's all these events are tied into the Yom Teruah. They're tied into the day of the sounding of the alarm, tied into the shofar blast, tied into the idea of the coming of the king, the departing for war, the preparing for battle, all these things. But now we see clearly even further that there are seven messengers, seven malachim in the heavens, in the Shamayim, who are about to sound their seven trumpets that have been given to them by Yahuwah.